Hello, I'm Adam and this is Gosu Coders. Today we're talking about the top 3 reasons your first job as a programmer should be at a startup. Let's get started. Today I'm talking about the positive reasons for why you should join a startup as your first job as a programmer. Now, there are tons of reasons, but I've really narrowed it down to what I believe are the top 3. And a startup, in my opinion, is a company that is a lot smaller and only been around for 2 to 3 years or less. So if you get to a company that's been around 5, 6 years and they have hundreds of employees, sometimes the culture has changed and the things that we're going to talk about may not apply anymore. So what I'm referring to is a very new startup, potentially even like one of the first 10 employees. So anyway, let's get into my first reason. My number 3 reason for why you should join a startup is experience. Honestly, being on the ground floor of something new can teach you so much. My experiences that I had at a startup, my very first one, even though it failed, were tremendous. I got to learn how a company was built from me being employee number 7 all the way up to having 60 employees. And then we went through a really tough time in 2008 with the recession. So I got to ride out and learn what the company goes through as it starts to downsize and find what its future is going to be. I learned so much about how to build teams. I learned so much about coding. I learned just across the board more than I think I would have if I'd have been at any other company. Experience that you will get at a startup, a new startup, is just, you can't even put a value on it. It is so important. And that's why I picked that as my number 3 reason why you should join a startup. All right, so my number 2 reason is tech. Startups are much more likely to be looking at some of the newer technology that has just come out. I got to personally be on the ground floor of working with things like Unity 3D. Unity 3D was just on the Mac at the time, and I had seen in my mind a vision for that being a cross-platform, enterprise-level software to build some really cool simulations, and it worked out. AngularJS, Node.js are a couple other examples that were still used today in some of the companies I worked on. You get to build prototypes and proofs of concept. You get to look at everything, and you get to have a part of that. As someone that's joining a smaller company, your voice is heard. So if you see something new that's coming out and you think it could be a benefit to the company, take some due diligence and just go try it out. Bring it to the team and see what happens. Honestly, like once you get to a bigger company, it's much harder to introduce new technology, much harder to be able to have the time to explore and be able to pick which direction you're going, because teams are usually dedicated to do that for you. I will say though, you have to be careful when you're doing this, because on the flip side of that, whatever you pick will most likely be with that company for years to come. So make sure you are doing your due diligence. Make sure you do feel confident that can be supported for years to come. And you are just going to have a time of your life there. I learned so darn much doing things with like Knockout.js and Backbone, and there's a open source Feather library that we used at one point. Some technologies that I got to explore just because we were looking for solutions to things. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Technology, if you love to try a bunch of new things, you love learning a ton of things, startups are the place to do it. And that's why that is my number 2 reason. My number 1 reason for joining a startup as your first programming job is opportunity. Now, when you're with a company from the beginning, there are so many things that are given to you, such as promotion opportunities or learning new skills, or maybe even switching career paths. You make those yourself. And in a small company, you have to wear all these hats so you get to see this big picture. So promotions could be one of it. For example, I went from an unpaid intern to a senior developer in 4 years. Another example, I was super excited. I was a gameplay programmer for a video game company. I wanted to do more engine level coding. So I literally started like throwing myself into it, and before long, within a matter of a year, I was doing almost all the engine level programming for our company. And that was just me wanting to try that out and doing it. And the company let me do that. They put me in a situation where I could fail if I needed to, but they knew that eventually, with hard work, that I would succeed. it was so fantastic to me to actually be a part of that. So if you're looking for a company with plenty of opportunities for quick promotion, early startups are a place to do that. Pay may not always be equivalent with all those promotions, but the experience that you gain seeing the whole breadth of the product is just phenomenal. Another thing, like my engine level programming experience, what you may find is that you may want to work on a different part of the product, or you may want to have a whole different role. You make your career path. It isn't defined through like HR. It is something that, like, if you see a gap in the company, you can jump in and start doing it. It is absolutely fantastic in my opinion. And to me, like, bigger companies that can maintain that level of flexibility and career paths are probably going to be the most successful, because people are going to be the most productive when they're happy and challenged. So opportunity really is my number one reason, and the opportunities really are endless because you make them. Well, that's it for me. I had so much fun thinking about why I would want to join a startup if I was just now getting started in programming. And honestly, along the way, I thought about some reasons why you probably wouldn't want to, depending on the type of programmer you are. If you want to hear what those are, please leave a comment below and I'll make a video related to that. But that's all I've got for today, and I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know if you've had a first job at a startup and what your thoughts are. I wouldn't trade my experience for anything. Like, I honestly don't think I would be where I am today without my years spent at the 3 startups that I worked at. So anyway, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. That would mean the world to me. And until next time, keep coding, coders.